to another edition of LEEZFEED. I'm your host, Lee Coleman. Today, our guest is Larry Ivory. He is the president and CEO of the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce. He also holds the position of the chairman of the board of the National Black Chamber of Commerce. So this evening, we'd like to welcome Mr. Larry Ivory.
Okay.
Okay.
All righty. Welcome to LEEZFEED. All right, my mic up a little high. Welcome to LEEZFEED. My name is Lee Coleman, and today we'll be talking to Mr. Larry Ivory, who's the president and CEO of the Illinois State Black Chamber, and he's also the chairman of the National Black Chamber. So Larry, tell us a little bit about the chamber, the national, and then let's talk about the state chamber. What is a chamber anyway? I hear the word chamber all the time. What the heck is a chamber, man? And what is it? What do you do with a chamber?
Yeah, a chamber is about commerce, about doing business. The purpose of a chamber is to impact commerce and to transact business, which is a major part of capitalism, is participating in the economy. And so the purpose of the chamber and our mission statement says to economically empower and sustain the African-American community through entrepreneurship and capitalistic activity via interaction with our National Black Chamber of Commerce throughout the Black diaspora. And that's our mission. In a nutshell, Lee, it's just about strengthening Black businesses.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. Okay, you have groups like the Urban League and the NAACP. So why would a person want to be in your group as opposed to having some type of affiliation with the Urban League and or the NAACP, and you're a chamber?
It's what we call in the corporate world or investment world, ROI, a return on investment. When you work with other organizations, they don't necessarily focus on access, or they don't necessarily focus on contracts or policy. Urban League focuses on training, economic development. The NAACP focuses on resolutions and discrimination and a host of other, and they all dabble in what we call economic development at some level. But we have a true mission where we focus on strengthening Black business. So if you're going to have a heart problem, you don't want to go see a knee specialist. You know, you want to go to the person who practices in the area in which he's going to operate on you. And what we do, we stay in our field and we focus on strengthening Black businesses. And that's why people would want to join us as it relates to Black business, because we focus on things that will help them from cradle to grave, help them not only grow their business, but at some point in time, they're going to sell their business and prepare them to sell that business for a profit. So the chamber is there to act as an advocate on policy, removing barriers, fighting on behalf of Black businesses, just like the White Chamber of Commerce does for white businesses and every other business.
Okay, so you've got a larger population of people who have social needs, as opposed to, they need both economic and social needs.
Correct.
So would it be your advice to gear people who are not in business towards those groups like the NAACP and the Urban League to get, for that group that's not in business, to look to those groups for social justice?
Oh, absolutely. That's what they're designed for. And, a chair was designed to be sit in. It wasn't designed for you to stand on top of. You can do it, but it's not designed for that. The purpose of the chair was designed by the master architect for you to sit down and be comfortable. So you have to understand what things are designed for. We're designed for Black business to help Black businesses grow.
Okay, good. Okay. So on a national level, you're the chairman, and what does that entail? What does being the chairman of the National Black Chamber of Commerce means?
Well, it means a lot of work, Lee. But let me tell you some of the work that we do, but it's exciting work. Part of my responsibility as chair is basically to help set policies for the national organization. but also because of my background in chambers, I've traveled around the country to help strengthen chambers and help form new chambers. I was just in Tennessee, in Knoxville, Tennessee, talking to a group of business people who feels like it's time to have a Black Chamber of Commerce in Knoxville, Tennessee. So they called me down and sent me down to come and talk to them about what it takes to be a successful chamber, how we can help them. And so a part of my responsibility, whether that be in parish France or, and keep in mind, as a national, international organization, we're not just in domestically in the United States, we're in Colombia, Africa, Brazil, Costa Rica. We're throughout the Black diaspora, that's what our mission statement says, Jamaica. So our organization is really designed to get us to think globally, because we're global people. And we got to look beyond our borders if we're going to compete globally. And so what the chamber tries to do is to build relationship in the Black diaspora, where people who look just like us are running the countries, and make sure that we're getting access and opportunities to bring our talent and our resources and make money, and build wealth at the same time.
The National Black Chamber started in what, 92? I mean, 91 or 92?
Correct. Absolutely.
Okay, so this probably was the first National Black Chamber in the country. Am I right or wrong about that?
Yeah, you're correct, Lee. If you go back to the earliest times under Booker T. Washington, was when the first chamber was formed. Matter of fact, the white chamber didn't exist. It became the model. Booker T. Washington started the Chamber of Commerce, and everybody else followed in Booker T. Washington's footprints.
So the National Chamber is since 92, 91. Now, who are these other chambers that are popping up on a national level? And what does that mean to the well-established oldest Black chamber in the country?
Well, it means it's capitalism, it's competition. People decide that they can do something better, or they want to do something different, or for political reasons, you may not be in favor with one political leadership, and so others may spin off and endear themselves to another type of leadership. But most of those chambers were born out of us. If you go back and take a look at history, when you took a look at Hurricane Katrina, we impacted billions of dollars to Black businesses before they were even a twinkle in their eye. They didn't exist. We existed, and we had a long track record of helping Black businesses fighting for Section 3, Title 6, challenging corporations. So we were the first out there advocating and fighting on behalf of Black business. And from that, other organizations, other people decided, you know what, I think we want to do it. We want to do a little bit different. And there it led to the other Chamber of Commerce, like the chamber. I don't even mention their name because quite frankly, they're different than us. We think we are far more relevant as it relates to our mission and our objective.
Okay. So you're saying that's healthy competition. That's what you're saying.
Well, I mean, nobody wants competition, but that's a part of capitalism. You have to understand that people are going to start something that you may not always agree with, but that's America. That's the country in which we live. The question is it good or bad? And I think the jury is out, because I think you can have people competing and they can make each other better. But at the same time, you could also have people in a position where you divide your voice against yourself and your voice becomes lesser than stronger. And that's one of the downsides of it. So, our goal and objective is that, we do what we do, and we're going to focus on what we do, and we're going to stay relevant by helping Black businesses at the end of the day.
Okay.
Just like what we have, Lee, in Illinois. We have, 3 chambers of commerce. 2 of them came out of, like I said, out of our loins. They're not us. They don't have our depth and reach and background and history. But they're new kids on the block.
But I want to get into something. You jumped me a little bit on that. Okay, I want to leave the state chamber alone for a minute. I want to go back to the national. Okay, you
Okay.
got these other groups competing. Are these groups, the National Black Chamber, you're the chairman, Harry Alford is the president and CEO. Do you have to compete on a political level? Because it is said that the National Black Chamber is more Republican leaning. And this new chamber, African American Chamber, if I've got the name right, they're more democratically leaning. Talk about that a little bit for me.
Well, I think it's the perception is that the National Black Chamber of Commerce has had relationships with a lot of Republicans. You know, Art Fletcher, who we're going to be talking about later, he worked within the Republican administration who wrote affirmative action. And, you know, Lincoln was a Republican, so you can say that the National Black Chamber of Commerce have worked with Republicans, but you can also say they work with Democrats, whether that be Congressman Bobby Rush, Congressman Danny Davis, Senator John Kerry, when he was senator. So we basically work with everyone. But sometimes, when you get into an issue, I think we had an issue when they had the shovel-ready projects that was coming out. And we were somewhat, I think there were some concerns about Black people and some of the affirmative action initiatives under the Obama administration that the Obama administration wasn't paying attention to. And so that was a concern of ours. And even though we supported President Obama, we didn't always agree on the policy side as relates to ensuring Black participation.
Okay.
But didn't make us anti-Democrat and didn't make us pro-Republican, simply made us against a policy. But, politics can become what politics is,
Okay.
People get real sensitive about you don't agree with them. And, and then all of a sudden, lines get divided and people begin to do what they believe is in their collective best interests.
Okay, because we're going to talk about Arthur Fletcher a little later, and he worked for 4 Republican presidents, rather, and he did some great things. He's probably the best unknown civil rights leader in the country today, and we'll talk about him. But that's the problem, I think. Can we, as a group of African Americans, whatever you want to call us, Blacks here in America, who were prisoners of war, started back in 1619, are we sophisticated enough to say, you know what, on this issue, I kind of like what the Republicans are saying, because that's good for my community and my people. And then you look on the other side, you say, well, that's COVID bill was good for us as Black people. Are we sophisticated enough, or are we so entrenched in one party or the other? Because I got criticism of both parties when you take a real good look at it. So what do you think about our sophistication with reference to deciphering on a bill by bill as to whether or not it's good for us, whether it's Republican or Democrat?
Lee, I think that we are at the very critical stage, in my opinion, where we have to politically evolve. And I don't think that we can afford to be tied to any party. I think we can be tied to policies, and whether those policies are good or bad for us. I think anytime that we get tied to one party, I think we make a strategic mistake. I always tell people that we're not Republican or Democrat. We are policy driven. Based upon your policy, we can be with Republicans or we can be with Democrats. We can be against Democrats on the issue of labor and for Republicans on the issue of labor. We could be against Republicans on affirmative action and for Democrats on affirmative action. So I think that it's always about making sure that the interests of Black people is the foremost and most important issue we have. How does it impact Blacks, and what our position should be based upon the impact or the lack of impact it has upon us. And we should stay true to that mission. I think that is political evolution. I think we've been too tied to one party or the other. And I think that's political evolution, and we got to do something different.
Okay, that's on a national level. What about state level? What do you think?
Same thing.
Choose to
No
be
difference.
a Republican
Same thing.
organization, and you got some people in high places in the state legislature, let's just be honest about it, who are a little bit pissed off at you and your organization because you work with a Republican governor. So what about
But
that?
you know, I find that interesting. I tell you, it's a, you know, all our lives, Black people have been tortured, brutalized, taken advantage of, misdirected, bamboozled, hoodwinked, you name it, they done it to us. And they're trying to do it again. They want to make this an issue that the chamber is anti-Democrats and pro-Republicans. And that's simply not true. But if you're the enemy and you want to create discord, you want to divide a people against a people so that you can weaken them so they can never understand who they truly are. So
Who
it's
the
no
enemy
wonder,
really is.
correct. You know,
Yeah.
and sometimes we think we the enemy, and the reality we're not. Matter of fact, we ought to be cohorts and partners, but they understand the game. You know, it's like playing football and basketball league. You know, you playing against you know, you used to play for what? In high school, you played, what was school you played for?
East St. Louis Senior High School.
And then you had Lincoln.
Right.
Lincoln, and they were great opponents of yours.
Absolutely.
And you try to stop them from scoring, they try to stop you from scoring.
Absolutely.
It was competition. And you understood that.
But can we do that? Can we have the competition without putting down or trying to destroy forever your opponent? You know what I'm saying? Can we have a difference of opinion? We supposedly we are fighting for
Black
the same
people,
thing.
hey, Lee, Black people already have that. We are the most forgiving people in the world. It's that our counterparts don't see it that way. They don't always forgive us. And if they did, they would stop whooping upside the head all the time and doing the things they do to us on an ongoing basis. So I don't think that we can afford, quite frankly, as a chamber leader. I work with everyone. We work with major corporations who are run by Caucasian people because we want contracts and opportunity. But there's still a lot of what I consider to be ill intent in America for Caucasian people who don't believe that Black people deserve to have anything, and that they will fight and do whatever they can to undermine our ability to participate in the American dream and the economic pie of this country. And we must always be aware that you can't let people continue to subjugate us to nothingness and don't value what we bring to the table and be okay with that and be forgiven of that. I think there's time out for that. We have to understand the value.
We've got to make them respect our power and our ability to change elections. We've got to be sophisticated and up on the issues. And
know what to ask for, Lee. We got to know that. And I'll give you an example. This is my best example, which I think your audience will understand, is that Michael Jordan was one of the best basketball players of our times. And if Michael Jordan got paid the same thing that Kerr got paid, even though he was a great three-point shooter, there would be something wrong with that. Mm-hmm. Because Michael Jordan put more butts in the seat than anybody. He was dynamic. He was a major contributor. He brought him championship. He deserves to get paid more based upon his contribution. So I believe that Black people have continued to contribute to America in a significant fashion, going back to slavery. We're at the peak of slavery. Over 4 million Black slaves were working for free. And it created a bunch of millionaires, more millionaires than any time in American history was created. And those were all white under the King Cotton agenda. And that money, after the Emancipation Proclamation, that money did not dry up and disappear. That money went into institutions. It went into colleges. It went into legacy. It went into corporations.
It's old money.
But it didn't go into our pockets.
It's old money. It's old money.
Yeah, it's old money. You know, you got an advantage. You know, if you start off with $10 million in your pockets, or better yet, let's do it different. If you start off, we're gonna run a 100-yard dash and you got a 50-yard lead on me, I don't care how fast I'm probably gonna beat you.
Absolutely.
So they got a strong disadvantage economically that puts us in a very peculiar position to where we are fundamentally being hurt.
At a
And I
disadvantage.
yeah.
Well, you know what Dr. Claude Anderson said, the young man who wrote Powernomics, he said that Black people we were a planned minority, permanent minority. We were never planned or thought of as being equal, and there was no provisions for that. Even in the Constitution, it did not mean us when they talked about all men are created equal. So we were supposed to be that permanent minority class, and we rise. We just a little
Well,
opportunity, we rise.
yeah, we're more than equal, quite frankly. Any group of people who have endured what we've endured, and yet we continue to go beyond what anyone believed we could have gone beyond. The power of the human spirit, especially in Black people, is a very powerful spirit from our ancestors that we must not forget who we are. We must
On
not.
that note, I want to get into something. On that note, okay, we must not forget who we are, and we must not forget our ancestors. We must not forget those individuals who laid down their lives and their livelihood for us. And I'm speaking about one guy that most Black people don't know anything about, but you and I've met him, and you had more interaction with him than I did. I'm talking about Arthur Fletcher. Now, who is Arthur Fletcher? Let's educate the audience about this great Black man.
Dr. Arthur Fletcher was one of the, when they take a look at the history makers, he was one of the top history makers of our time. Dr. Fletcher played a role in Brown versus the Board of Education in Topeka, Kansas. He was one of the leading fighters in that situation. He was a father. He's noted for the father of affirmative action. We got affirmative action under Dr. Arthur Fletcher under the Nixon administration. He wrote us in. And I remember so many people, Democrats, telling me about Art Fletcher and what he did at the White House when it wasn't popular, that he was making things happen for Black folks. He was unapologetically Black, fighting for Black people. He knew how to maneuver in the system, but he didn't apologize for writing Black people in. He also served in the war under Patton's army and won the Medal of Honor. He was one of the first Black football players. He coined the phrase, he was the head of the United Negro College Fund. He coined the phrase, "A mind is a terrible thing to waste," as the United Negro College Fund.
Right.
Yeah. So
he played for the Baltimore Colts, and he served under Nixon, Ford, and Reagan.
Yeah.
And George H.W. Bush. So he was a Republican, but look what he did. He had the unmitigated gall to talk about affirmative action. And what is see, a lot of people don't understand the difference between affirmative action and civil rights. Affirmative action are affirmative steps that must be taken to correct disparities.
Absolutely.
Not just to say, well, we got your civil rights. Well, everybody, should have civil rights, but we don't really fully have the civil rights. So what affirmative action or steps are being taken to get us there? That's what affirmative action is.
Yeah, and he caught a lot of hell, man. He told me some stories that I've seen letters from President Nixon. I remember getting a call from President Bush when him and I were together. And I think one of the leaders of President Bush called him up and asked him about helping him on the campaign. And Art Fletcher said, "What do you stand on affirmative action?" And I remember after his conversation, he said, "Larry, look," he said, "I'm not going to get on the campaign stump for no one unless they tell me what their position on affirmative action is." He said, "That's my legacy. And I wrote Black people in.
Right.
And I want to know what their stance are."
We don't know it.
He would not support anyone unless they supported affirmative action.
And we don't know him. In fact, I got to know him through you, Larry, as part of the chamber. And I had a chance to sit down with this great man. And I'm honored to this day that I had that opportunity on more than one occasion to sit down and talk with him. And you've had more than I have. And that's one of we sitting at the feet of our elders, our ancestors, This is a great
Amen.
man. And one of my biggest pleasures in life, I played basketball, baseball, and football, and I've got letters on the wall here in my studio, but I've got something that was given to me that was called the Arthur Fletcher Award. And what is
Amen.
the Arthur Fletcher Award, Larry? What is that? Why did you create that award?
Because Arthur Fletcher was one of those uncommon guys in history that against all odds, he did the right thing for the right reasons. And it took an enormous amount of courage, just like Dr. King, and so, when we took a look at whoever we picked to be, it's our top award. It's a Dr. Arthur Fletcher Award, because anyone who gets that award has to do something above and beyond the call of duty. It's not just enough that you're a good guy and that you do what good people do. You got to do something extraordinary in order to get the Arthur Fletcher Award. And Lee, you got the award because, quite frankly, I saw you do some things that I was afraid for you, quite honestly. I'm like, I'm in a meeting, we going at it with the Secretary of Transportation, all the key people. You work for IDOT, getting paid from them, and you whisper in my ears, and the secretaries across the, leadership is across the table from us. I turn over the table, walk out the meeting, and I look behind me, you walking out the meeting with me. I said, now this man is absolutely crazy because I can't feed him. I can't pay his paycheck.
Wow.
So I was scared for you, but you said, I work for the community. You said, MF him. I work for the community.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, because of that, and because not only those things, it's just, that was one thing. I watched you when the chamber was under attack, and people wanted to undermine us and marginalize us. I watched you defend us when most 98% of most Black people would have stayed out of it. You didn't do that. You defended us, and you didn't waver from your commitment. I watched you go into the community and fight for people who would never fight for you. I watched you do that at IDOT. And so I'm honored that I get a chance, and I really mean this. I'm honored I get a chance to have seen this with my own eyes. And you really actually gave me more courage, like Harry offered when he would do things. I would be like, they're gonna kill Harry. Because I ain't never seen nobody talk to people the way Harry talked to him. And so when I saw Harry do it, I started to believe that I could do it. Well, when I watch you do what you do, I am challenged. It makes me a better person. And that's really what you want to be around. And that's why that's the only reason you got the award, is that you showed uncommon valor.
I really appreciate that.
And you were deserving of the award because of what you did, not what you said, but I saw you do it. I ain't hear you talk about it, because people can talk a lot of trash, but when the push comes to shove, you're in a foxhole and the enemy's on your left flank and he gone.
You know what?
Foxhole and you out there by yourself.
I wanted to say
that. I can think about, if you're in a fight with Lee Coleman, you got your real ally. Now, he may not always agree with everything that you're going to say, but when it comes to the war and the fight, he ain't leaving your side. And that's why I was honored, and that's why our board was honored to give you that award, because you deserved it.
Wow. My mother told me when I was a little guy, my middle name is Arthur, right? And she said, Arthur, she's from Macon, Mississippi, Sarah Coleman, Sarah May Coleman, my mother, big old tall, statuesque, beautiful African queen, Achabulan queen, correction. And she told me, she said that, and she was very well-breasted, she was into Black people. She was the one that told me about Emmett Till, and she told me that if you ever got put into a position to affect the quality or life itself for your people, she said that job is ordained by God and you must do it. And that grew up in me all my life. And so it was easy for me to do that.
Yeah, we owe a debt of gratitude to your mother, Lee.
Absolutely.
Because obviously you took after you must have looked like your father, because you said your mother was beautiful Saturday. So your mother must have got your traits, got the personality
They
from
call
your
my
mother.
dad,
Probably.
they call my dad ugly. Okay.
Yeah.
But let me say this, Larry, and this is not, we didn't rehearse this interview, and we're going to do this often, at least twice a month, not only about the chamber, but about Black people in general and current events. That's what this is all about. But I met Larry Ivory like 90, 91. This brother lived in a mansion. I hadn't seen a brother live in a mansion before. And I went to your house, and you know, it was a mansion. I went to your office. You were sitting there in an glass encased office. I mean, Smith Barney. I was very impressed with this young brother. And next time I look around, this brother let all that go to start an organization at Harry Alford's request, I guess. He had something to do with it. And you
Absolutely.
started the Black Chamber. And you gave up all of that. And you suffered for that. So if anybody know Lee Coleman, I can't follow anything less than a leader. We like you said, you and I, we get in the back room and we roll up our sleeves. We almost ready to punch each other out on certain issues. Okay, so we don't kiss each other's, you know, butts, man. We don't do that. We stay straight up. And I appreciate the fact that if you have a crossroads in your mind about a particular object, a title, or subject, you'll come back and say, "What do you think about this?" And you'll weigh it, and then you're the president. You'll do it the way you do it. You want to do it at the end of the day, but you will seek advice. And you are a true champion. I know you get attacked a lot by your people and the oppressors, but I believe in you and I believe in your mission, and I'll always be there. And I'll be there to help guide you, correct you, fight with you. And I've got your back, man, because I know how you feel about Black people. I've seen it. I've lived it. Like you said about me, we've been in the trenches together. You know, we've been to Jamaica. We've been to several places. We went to New Orleans 4 or 5 different times. We went all over this country to help our people. And you are a stellar brother when it comes to fighting for your people, man. And we're gonna even step it up more. And your organization hasn't even reached its potential. Hasn't reached its potential, but it's gonna get there. And we need to support your organization. And we got some competition. Okay, and we can coexist with that competition, but we should be graded on your record. You got a 20-something year record. I never would have met John Kerry, the picture on the wall over there, had it not been for Larry Ivory, sitting in a room with Governor Quinn and people like that, going on trade missions to Jamaica, meeting Black men from Africa who were in the coffee business for a potential opportunity. These are the things that I had a chance to see being involved with the chamber. And we got some more fights to do, but I just don't want to not get out of here today without saying, I love you, I appreciate you. And like I said, I'll turn around, I'll fight you as long as land lasts if I have to. But I really appreciate a Black man that is dedicated to fighting for our people. And going back to the Democratic or the Republican thing, you had a good relationship with Rauner. Rauner did some great things, I thought, that benefited us. The shelter market, we've talked about that several times, and some other things. I don't think he had a good infrastructure to make that thing really happen the way it should have, downstream, down the lower echelon people, to make sure that his wishes were carried out. But he did some good things. And you were criticized for being with an individual who said he wanted to be greater on how well he do for Black folks. And he did some things. So we're not for Democrats or Republicans, we're for whoever got our best interests at heart. And at that time, he did. And now we got a governor now that, I'm saying this, Lee Coleman is saying this, I see some things I don't like with Governor Pritzker. We were in a meeting with Governor Pritzker, and I'm gonna shut up and let you talk. Back in May of 2019, he promised to put a Black on each corporate board. That Friday, we cut the deal. We sat down and talked with even the guy who's the House Speaker of the House right now was in that meeting. Manuel, that's his name, right?
Mm-hmm. Manuel
Okay.
Chris Welch.
Yeah, Chris Wells. And so we decided we was gonna get this thing done. And he said, okay, we're gonna do it. That weekend it changed. Did he ever give us an explanation as to why he changed away from what he had us come out with in Springfield to talk about? But that's the way it is, man. So,
Yeah.
I'm with you, Larry.
Well, I say this, Lee, is that the road that we travel is not the easiest road to travel. It really isn't. And it can be, at times, you have to wonder, what did I get myself into? But when you find kindred spirits of people who have fought and still fighting like you fight, it gives you a sense of hope that you're not in the fight by yourself, because it can be a very challenging time because you're going against powerful odds against you to stand up and be respected. But if you're going to be a man, you know, I'd rather die. I'd rather die on my feet than to live on my knees, man.
But they said
And
that with the
I
boots
just
on, but you get the boot heel.
But you know, man, I wouldn't trade what I do for anything. I mean, to serve Black people, even when they don't understand what you're trying to do for them, even when they say all manner of evil against you and try to destroy your name and try to make you out to be some bad person, all of a sudden one day people saying, well, if you just get rid of Larry Ivory, the chamber would be okay. And then when someone said, tell me something Larry Ivory done that has not been good for Black people, they can't point to one thing. You know, that's an indication that you're on the right track. So I'm excited about the future. Like Dr. King said, I ain't fearing any man. You know, I done looked over and I done seen the promised land. So I'm excited that I get a chance to serve Black people. That's like Art Fletcher, just like so many before us fought to make things better for us. Harriet Tubman and her, you know, little bitty woman, you know, went against all odds to free Black people. And she could have freed a lot more if they understood they were in chains. So we got enormous work to do. And man, I am proud that you and I have made a commitment to help build this station, to get the word out, and to talk to our people about real conversation, about things that really matter, and get them to understand their true potential as Black people and not relegate themselves to second-class citizen status, and demand a seat at the table and know exactly what they need to get.
You know why we should demand a seat at the table? You did a real good documentary a few years ago, and it's called "It's Your Money."
Oh.
So we got the COVID money, and you know the government gave us, no, that's our money.
Yes.
They give money to Israel. They give money to all other foreign countries. Our money, because we don't live in a true democracy. We live in a representative republic. So we send representatives to Congress, the House and the Senate to represent us. We do the same thing on a local level with our mayor and our alderman, and with the state, the General Assembly. So that's our money. They're not giving us anything that we don't deserve.
No.
So thanks you for thinking about us, Joe Biden, about stimulus. But that was my money. I appreciate getting some of it back.
Amen.
Part to reparations too. So
hey, I tell people one of my favorite pieces, man, is the gas tax that helped fund the $45 billion capital budget. And anyone who puts gas in their car is paying for, and when you take a look of all the construction work going on and take a look at our contribution, we ought not to be saying, well, I hope they do something for us. No.
But
here's something, give back some of my money. That's what I want.
Here's something that I'm hoping that whoever may listen to this, work with us, because I want to make sure, and I've got the guts to do it, and I will do it. And one that knows me and knows you also, we need to reap the benefits. You had a meeting today with the Capital Development Board, and I listened in on that. I was there, and I was those are opportunities with our money that we should be able to become general contractors in that program, as well as subs. That's our money. We should reap the benefits of our tax dollars. And we've got to make sure we do that for our people, even on a hiring basis. I know this is a group that's more concerned with commerce, but there's some social aspects to things. That's where, I split hairs. I think that there's a social element to this thing too, because we've got to get those young Black people into, for instance, the Department of Transportation on those entry level jobs. And they may say one day that, you know, I've got my salary going here, I got some insurance. I might want to put a little money on the side over here and start me a business. And that's how we get the commercial side of it. But we can't stand around any longer and allow IDOT to discriminate against, you know, our people getting entry-level jobs, getting promotions, being 75-day employees, and trying to kick people in the butt who raise those issues. Because
Oh, yeah.
we need to make sure that we get every ounce of what we deserve out of our own dollars.
Well, and that's one of the things I'd say too, is that you did some things at IDOT in terms of that people probably will never truly appreciate. You set some of the highest goals, even though you were downstate. You set some of the highest goals. You're the only EO officer I know that gave a prime contractor a filling grade and reduced their participation in the bonding capacity. The only one, even though most of them have failed in terms of the standards by which the Federal Highway Administration works under, you did your job. They were mad at you. They watched you. They followed you. They did everything they could do to get, when you left IDOT and you retired, man, there were so many happy people at IDOT. They know what because they said that we didn't got Lee out of there, things gonna be the same. We're gonna be better off. But the fact of the matter, just because Lee isn't as an EO officer, don't mean that he stopped fighting for people. And I'm excited that we haven't given up the fight. We haven't thrown in the towel. We're back in the fight. We're gonna hold Omar Osmond accountable for his role as Secretary of Transportation. He don't deserve to be off the hook. He won't even return a phone call from a guy who helped him to become EO officer with Senator Claiborne, myself, and others. And sometimes you can't even get a phone call back from the Secretary of Transportation. That's not acceptable.
It's not true. Here's the deal. You know, IDOT is one agency on our radar. There's many more. And we need to go back, and you and I, we're going to talk about how we're going to readdress that issue, because
we're going to have IDOT conversation.
Egregious discrimination happening at that agency. And I was the EO officer there. And I can attest to a lot of things that I saw in 15 years. So we're going to try to deal with that, because it's going to make our people happy, and we're going to make it better for us. It's going to get us out of the breadline. It's going to get us away from crime. When you got a job to go to, you're less likely to commit a crime. People usually steal because they need. I'm not condoning it, but you put us in a situation where you can go to any Black community in this country. I ask people, I said, why do you think most Black communities all look the same? Because they've been deprived of the basics in this society. And it's not by happenstance, it's planned. So we got to do something about that.
And it's going to take a Herculean effort and a lot of courage, like Nelson Mandela and others before us, to have the courage to stand up and not be afraid. And like I said, we can't be afraid to do what's right, to protect our kids and to make their lives better than what our lives were, man. And I'm just not going to cave in.
I'm not going to do it. And Larry, you know one thing?
They tried all kinds of stuff.
You know one thing, Larry? We've got to go and do it. And but it would really be nice that if our constituents, our people, the ones that we're fighting for, that we don't know, whom we want to reap the benefits of our fight, join us in any way they can. Join the chamber, support us, because we got some work to do. This is not over. Just look at George Floyd's case. They're having a trial, and the defense lawyer for Chauvin, Derek Chauvin, is saying that the crowd interfered with the safety of George. George was on drugs. He was a big guy, using all the typical racist, stereotypical reasons why a Black man is dangerous. And you put your knee on his neck for 9 minutes, 29 seconds. Then you got the voting rights being challenged in 43 different states across the nation. Black people, hey, I tell you what, you better get ready. And we need to fight together, because we stay together, they can't defeat us, because the minority group, which encompasses 8 protective groups, hey, that's a large number of people. I wish the agents would get on board with us. They want us on board with them now, but I don't recall seeing any agents in any of Black Lives Matter or the Civil Rights Movement in the 60s. So come on, Asian brothers, get in line.
Let's help each other. Yeah.
Native
Well,
Americans the same way.
Well, again, like you said, man, we have a moral obligation to make this a more perfect union. The intent of America was to build a great society. It can never be great if it continue to suppress Black people. Now, some people said, well, we ain't really seen suppression, but no, if you take a look at all the things that we see on contracting, on access, on PPE to the people who don't have the money, all the other factors that's bad, Black people lead the pace when it comes to healthcare. The social outcomes of healthcare based upon delivery of healthcare services to Black people, based upon the COVID virus and everything else, they ought to be ashamed of what they've done and continue to do. And we're going to sound the alarm. We are going to be an advocate. We're going to be unyielding and unapologetic for fighting for the right thing.
And if our people join us, subscribe to this station, join the chamber, fight with us, we can win. Black Lives Matter is one example of those young females, man, got together and they did something great. They put it on the map. It's all over the world. Two young African-American women, my understanding.
My hat's off to them. My hat's off to them.
My hat's off to them. We got something too.
Their brothers and their babies being killed and murdered, and just like I said, man, it's such an emotional subject to have had what's happened to us, the mental trauma that we have experienced on an ongoing basis, and continue to justify the killing of innocent Black people just because they can.
Okay.
And we ought not to be okay with that.
And what we've got to do also, we've got to do some educating. We got to watch the press. We got to be careful about the press. If you look at the press now, the press and the ad agencies, you got the dark-skinned man and woman is almost obsolete when it comes to commercials now. I was debating with some Black females. I said, why is every Black woman in these commercials and things, the promotions, got this, what they call texturized hair now? Every one of them, 99% of them are. And why are they pairing our queens with Caucasian men in these commercials? The kids are lighter. Very seldom do you see that dark-skinned man and that dark-skinned woman together. They're going to separate them. Don't you understand? Stacey Abrams is the Black women or the backbone of the Democratic Party. Stacey did one hell of a job. But last I checked, the majority of Black men vote Democratic too. So they're continually trying to separate that man from that woman. Promote your woman. I'm looking at TV right now. I got 3 TVs in my studio here. You'll see what they want to be the microcosm of this country. Black female, white male. That's how they really want it. And they're promoting our sisters and leaving us behind. So it's not to be against our sisters. We want them promoted, but quit leaving that Black man out. And we got to demand that. Because we got power in the press now, because we got this station and we got other people with stations too. So we're gonna have to talk about things and try to educate our communities ourselves. We just want them to join in and just listen.
Yeah. Well, Lee, I go back to, one of the reasons that you and I have come together is because of common ground on common issues as it relates to the community. And I'm reminded of Art Fletcher and his sacrifice. And I remember when he said to me, your generation, Larry, perhaps maybe the only generation that has that made things substantially better for the next generation. Will this be your legacy? And if not, what do you plan to do about it? Him and Andrew Young, Ambassador Young, Mayor Young, asked me that question in Washington, D.C., and I'll never forget it. He didn't ask me, what do we plan to do? He said, what do you plan to do about it?
That's right. We just
And
can't talk about it. We got to do something about it. And that's what they did. That was those young kids did in the 60s. When they went to jail, they marched, they stood up, and we
they did.
changed things.
Yep.
Hey,
And we've got.
I want to throw this in there, Larry. When we talk about training and education, no, the press will put a thought into your head, or their phrase words, and put them out there. Like, the police need more training. I used to be an auxiliary police officer. They've gotten the training. Like with George Floyd, when he supposedly tried to pass a counterfeit $20 bill, does that equate to the cops getting out in the car with a 9mm in his face, traumatizing this man? And they said the police officers need more training. No, they don't. You can't train racism out of them. He's had the training. I had the training how to de-escalate a situation when you got that gun and that badge on. De-escalate it. You're trained to do that. But they can get away with not doing that. So it's not that they need more training. Here's what they need, like Colorado did, and one other state did it recently. Take away qualified immunity. Qualified immunity, where a police officer, no matter what he does, right or wrong, he cannot be held financially liable personally. We got to get rid of that. And I bet you that'll be better than training. Go after his pension. Do like the lady did with the Klan when they killed her son. Go after their property.
Yeah.
That'll stop these beatdowns and these murders.
Yeah, I'd like to say something else, Lee, but I'm gonna hold back on that.
You hold back on that right now. Okay.
Hold back on that. But I am.
I'm fired up, Larry.
I'm angry at being angry. You know what I mean? I'm angry at being angry.
I'm tired of being angry.
Yeah, I want to do something. And that's why when they come and create any kind of issues, and I always say, when I went to Art Fletcher one day, and man, they were wearing me out. I was fighting for the community, and I called Art Fletcher up, and I really wanted him to console me, and he was so wise, because he said, Larry, I'm thinking he's gonna say, man, they got no business treating you like that, Larry. All you do for them. He said, boy, you're on the right track. He said, they ain't bothering nobody who ain't doing enough. You're on the right track. You're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
If you black and ain't nobody mad at you, you ain't doing something right.
Absolutely.
It's okay for some people to be mad at me. It's okay when I walk into a meeting and there's black opportunity and I'm fighting for it, and I make some people uncomfortable because I'm an advocate on behalf of black business. And I ain't talking about Hispanic business. I ain't talking about Asian business. I ain't talking about white women. I'm talking about black business.
I've heard you say that in several meetings.
People be uncomfortable, and it's okay. We've been uncomfortable all our lives. Absolutely. I am not apologizing for being an advocate for black people. If I serve on a board or on a commission, you know who I was before you put me there. If you didn't want someone to be an advocate for black people and for black business, you should have never picked me. I did not hide who I was. I did not masquerade that I was a good Negro who would go along and get along. That was not my resume.
What did you like?
That's exactly what you're supposed to get from me.
Did you like Charlotte Roberts, right? Charlotte Roberts, she was a very strong, independent thinker. Basically she was for the underdog, and it just happened to be us most of the time.
Oh, absolutely.
And she was there standing tall for us. And the governor takes off the board. What's the name of that board, Larry?
The BPP Council.
Yeah, took her off, the Business Enterprise Council, which has the duty to make sure that these state dollars are divided equally.
And there was no one on the council as knowledgeable as Charlotte Roberts when it came to policy and the rules and regulations.
Right.
And she chaired 2 committees. And what did they do? They decided to remove her and put a white female in that position who does not have the knowledge and the commitment that Charlotte Roberts brings to the table. It is an attack on black people. The caucus members ought to be offended by it.
Absolutely. And
they ought to rally around Ms. Roberts like we are and make sure that people understand, no, this is a valuable resource. And it's not that Charlotte is only for black people only. but Charlotte fights for everyone. But she is passionate about fairness and equity for Black people. And she is knowledgeable. She understands the rules and regulations, and she is a great asset. We lose a significant
Stand for that.
resource
We shouldn't stand.
when we lose her.
We need to let the governor know. Now, you did get a letter together, right, Larry, on her behalf?
Yep, there's a letter. Malcolm Weems and others have, in our chamber, has put together letters. We've called to senators. Jesse Jackson wrote a letter. Congressmen have been involved and engaged in this. Everyone's trying to make sure that they understand. We can't, if you got Michael Jordan or Scottie Pippen on your team, you can't let somebody just take him out of the game and you're trying to win the championship. I mean, you got to keep your best players on the court.
And they know who those players are, because we're going to run. But next week, next show, I want to concentrate on the agency that I worked for 15 years, and that's IDOT. And we'll talk about all of the things that they've been doing in the recent years to make sure that we don't advance as a people, from employment to contracting to promotions, disciplinary actions. And a lot of this comes from their own affirmative action plan that they have to report every year to the Federal Highway Administration to continue to receive federal funds. We want to talk about that. But Larry, it's been a pleasure, man. And like I said, this station is going to jump off the chain, and we're going to, employ people to listen, to get involved, to join the chambers, because we're not through with this fight. This is one hell of a fight we got coming up. And Larry, I'm gonna say this before we go. I was proud to see, as I looked at the thing about George Floyd last year, to see as many white people who got involved. I mean, I was shocked at the numbers. Everybody's about sick of this SHIT, man. About sick of it. I mean, we can live in harmony and peace, and we can share the wealth.
Yeah, absolutely. We can make a better world for everyone.
Everybody.
In the late Arthur Fletcher, in closing with his comment, he's always saying in his speeches, Larry, think, reason, and use good judgment. He always said, think, reason, and use good judgment. He said, I had a political mind, that God gave him a political mind. He could look through muddy water and see dry land. That was his gift. And God bless Dr. Arthur Fletcher, who took time to mentor a guy like me, and took time to talk to young people and everybody else, and anyone, whether you be Democrat or Republican, from Luana Peters to all over the country, knows Art Fletcher and his commitment, whether he was a Republican or a Democrat. He fought for Black people, and he was one of the most well-respected people on Capitol Hill. So my love goes out to my mentor who's in heaven, and I hope that we make him proud, Lee, because I can tell you that I'm proud of our relationship that we have, and brothers can get together and debate issues and even get angry at each other. But when it comes to Lee Coleman, let it be clear and known clearly, if you mess with Lee Coleman, you mess with Larry Ivory.
And that goes both ways, man. That goes two ways. And Black people, listen to us this day, the 1st of April, 2021. We're going to get some changes. We're going to do some things to these agencies. These agencies are not going to take my dollars and dog my brothers and sisters out. That's not going to happen. And we got laws written that would help us make sure that thing happens, that would be better for our people, and we're going to do it. Larry, thanks a lot. You gave me one of my most prized possessions, and that's the Arthur Fletcher Award, man. I got it on my fireplace in there in another room, and I'm so proud of that. And I know you gave it to me because of what you believed in. It wasn't a gift to appease me. I know you felt it, and you've seen me in action. So, and I've seen you in action. So let's put it together, my brother. And until next time, IDOT is on the agenda next time, my brother.
Hey, super. Take care, Mr. Coleman.
Okay, take care.
Take care, man. Bye-bye.